Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 31st, and right now we're looking at the combination of Doppler radars across Pacific Northwest. You can see that precipitation driving down across the region here, moving into southern Washington, and the frontal system moving into Oregon as we speak. That trough's going to continue down the west coast. We'll take a look at those details here in a moment as we have additional systems behind this one coming as well. So multiple chances for precipitation here across the Pacific Northwest, and we do need it. We've got some new information from the drought monitor I'll be sharing with you. We'll take a look at that extended forecast, and you can see this north jet stream carving out that trough over the region here. So hopefully it can bring some nice needed wraparound moisture with it. Now taking a look at CTAC, 2 degrees below average, 1300ths of an inch. Some places got much more precipitation with some of those storms training over the area the last few days with thousands of lightning strikes here across Pacific Northwest. Very interesting August storm there. This is looking at the day one outlook. As we go towards day two, you can see thunderstorm threat moving back into Oregon here. There is even a severe threat down across from the southeast Idaho, mainly a wind threat here as some of these storms get going with that trough moving across the region. Flash flooding possible. This is for Medford, Oregon. It doesn't take much to flood some of these burn scar areas, so heads up for that. If you've been living by some of these fire areas here, you guys know the rest, and they talk about it here with the weather.gov/flood, and you can see, it doesn't take much here. So if you live near a recent burn scar, heads up for that. This is National Weather Service Great Falls calling the attention to happy meteorological fall, which starts September 1st, goes through November 30th here. So 2 different ways to describe how we do our seasons here. And this is looking at the nice affordable home weather station. Click on that link down below to save 10% off. I want to show you something here. You can see the solar radiation, 199 watts per meter square, and check out my Davis, 188. This system, this sensor on the Davis there costs more than this station total. So highly recommend this weather station. You can really save a lot of money and get really good weather information with it. So yeah, check that out if you want. Now taking a look here, the NAM, this is 500 millibars. Look at this trough just driving down across Washington, Oregon, and continuing to bring some moisture and hopefully wrapping this back around across some of those areas in Oregon Cascades, maybe even up towards some of southern Washington too. I wish this would reach a little bit further north here. We'll see how this goes over the next few days, but hopefully it can bring some needed precipitation. And we've got more systems coming that we'll take a look at here in a moment. This is looking at 500 millibar heights. Look at this jet stream diving down the coastline here. You can really see this visual representation of what's going on at 500 millibars. And look at this jet stream north across BC here. This low gets completely cut off. So if you hear people talking about a cutoff low, that's kind of what they mean. This doesn't stay cut off for long, so we have another trough swinging by that picks it up and will kick it through and bring another trough down across the area as we go on in through the extended. More on that here in a moment. This is looking at a wider view, Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. You can see that trough digging down the coastline. Then the next one picks it up and moves it off, and we have another one setting up shop here as we go through the early portion of next week. We'll be watching that one here over the next few days and start to discern any details with that one coming up here. Don't want to get too much into the weeds with that just yet. Things can change, of course, at this range. So you can see that frontal system as it drives down across the area. Trough sets up over Northern California and Oregon and hopefully starts to bring some of this wraparound moisture back up over the area here as we go through the weekend. And then the next trough starts to swing through the area here and hopefully bringing some much needed precipitation across some areas of the Cascades and British Columbia again. Yeah, we'll watch that as we come in here, but I'll show you the drought monitor here. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So this is looking at the lightning flash density potential. This is the HRRR. Now, as we go on in through the day tomorrow, you'll notice some of this activity rotate back around Portland here. So yeah, I hope you might get a few thunderstorms here. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy and it doesn't land right over a burn scar area, that heavier rain anyway, because we don't want to have any of the burn scar flooding in around some of the areas we've already been dealing with all that smoke as we've been going on through the summertime months here. And that's the last thing you need is to start to exacerbate some flooding concerns with that. But this is looking at 500 millibars, a nice visual representation of that trough dropping down over the area. It becomes completely cut off, then the next trough grabs it and starts to kick it through here, and that system itself will actually bring that next round of precipitation with it. Now this is looking at 10,000 feet. Just a reminder, of course, we've got a three-dimensional atmosphere here, right? We're just looking at slices of the atmosphere. That first one is 18. This is 10,000 feet here, so you can clearly see the trough at 10,000 feet drop down across the area, spin, and then get picked up with this next trough to bring some additional precip across the region. And of course, you can look at things at 5,000 feet too. You can see that colder air drop down the coastline also. And then you can look at 30,000 feet, 300 millibars. You'll see that chilly air carve out across the west coast there. So just kind of a visual diagram of what's going on at the upper levels of the atmosphere. You can also do that by looking at a sounding here too. So I picked Medford, Oregon here, and you can kind of see the temperature profile as you go aloft. And as you scroll forward, you can kind of see the upper levels of the atmosphere, if they cool down or what kind of convective available potential energy happens. So it kind of gives you a lot of information in one diagram known as a skew-T diagram here. And there's a lot of good videos online. You can check that out. I don't want to go over this in one of my briefings in too many details here. I've talked about them in depth a little bit before. But anyway, let's look at the extended forecast here. We get the European on the left versus the GFS on the right. This is yesterday afternoon's run, and you can see that trough setting up shop. Pretty good agreement in the short term here. Then we got the next one kind of swinging by and picking up that trough, bringing some additional. And then off through mid-portion next week, another trough tries to visit here. The GFS a little bit deeper with that trough. And then you can see the general rule kind of continuing some troughing nearby here, but things start to get a little bit squirrely here as you go 200 plus hours, of course, which is pretty typical. But you can see there's pretty good model agreement that there will be some kind of trough right off our coastline here. So we'll be watching that over the next few days. Kind of interesting stuff as we go on in through the early to mid portion of September. This is looking at total precipitation in inches. So you can see that frontal system drop down across the area, some of this wraparound moisture. Then the next trough comes through here. It looks like it might have some nice precipitation values across some of the higher terrain, especially. I mean, it even shows Seattle getting up over 0.4 of an inch here. You can kind of see the rain shadow effect there across the Columbia Basin as well. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here, below average across some of the Pacific Northwest. This goes through September 9th. Here's the precipitation probability, still showing that above average signal for a lot of the area here, so cross your fingers for that. Day 1 excessive rainfall outlook, mainly across the southwest, but day 2 it does get introduced across some of Oregon here too as well, so a little bit concerning for some of the burn scar areas. We looked at this yesterday as well. This is percent of average precipitation. You can see just how dry we've been across western Oregon, exceptionally dry, and some of the Pacific Northwest. Virtually all of Washington has been below normal, except extreme southeast portions there, Idaho Panhandle, Montana. And you can see the track of Tropical Storm Hilary that came up across the area. It really bumped up those precipitation percentages for meteorological summer here. This is June 1st through August 29th. This is temperature, and you can see much above average. Well, for some areas here across some of Washington, Oregon, I shouldn't say much, but 2 to 4 degrees is pretty noticeable across Washington and much of Oregon. And I think this suppression across some of the Central Cascades and maybe even Southwest Oregon there was due to smoke. Now, taking a look here, just a fantasy outlook fun here, the end of September and early October. Usually the first snowfall starts to arrive here for some of the Cascades, and looking out at the 46-day forecast on the European model, kind of a nice thing to look at here, just that snow potential. It's always fun to see the nice first snowfall out there in the extended forecast. Paradise, Mount Rainier, and look at Whistler, probably going to get something first up across some of British Columbia. Just purely fantasy right now, just fun to watch it. You can see the precipitation for SeaTac too. It's definitely on the increase here as by the time we go through September and on into early October, we start to bring some of these wetter systems across the area. And look at the control run, almost up towards 10 inches by mid-October. That's the outlier. You can see the mean here is much closer to 4 inches here, much more realistic. This is looking at 6-hour temperature max, and you can kind of see the slow decline here we start to go through as we go through September on in through early October there. Something interesting here too as well. So you can scroll through here and it goes out 46 days out. It runs every single day. But something I was looking at here this morning is you can see it brings some stronger systems off our coastline. This is like September 9th, and this is 1 day at a time every time I'm clicking through here. But you can see through the extended, look at this. September 18th, a strong storm diving on the north tip of Vancouver Island there. Another one arriving there as we go through September. And look at this beast out here off the coastline, September 24th. So it's just some interesting stuff here, showing some strong storms off our coastline here through September. You know, this is something fun to look at right now. And then you're looking way off into fantasy land for October here. But yeah, we'll see if there's anything to this. I'll try to remember this if we're going through early October and we see storm trains rolling in our way, or any time through September. Just purely fantasy for now. This is the actual 32-day snow ratio here, so you go all the way on in through October here, and you can kind of see that snow starting to fall across some of the higher terrain. It's that time of the year where that can happen, and it's always fun to see the first one up across some of the higher elevations. Now, this is looking at the drought monitor here, back to reality. you can see that we've introduced some extreme drought across some of Snohomish, Skagit, and Whatcom County here across Washington. Look, we've extended that across some of northwest Montana there as well. You can see the severe drought has been extended all the way out to southwest Washington, includes more of the Cascades. Now the Seattle Metro is in moderate drought here as well. And yeah, we've been abnormally dry, but I have a hunch that we're really going to start to eat into some of this drought here. I don't know that this will be long-lived, and hopefully not, but we've got troughs coming through the area here, and it's likely to bring precipitation for these regions. So hopefully we can really eat into this drought quite quickly here over the next week or two. But anyway, yeah, click like, subscribe. We're going to watch these systems roll in one at a time here. We've got this trough digging. We've got a couple more on in our sights here as we go through mid next week. So hopefully we can bring that measurable precip here. But yeah, kind of an early fall scenario unfolding in front of us here. Will it be a false fall, I should say, as we go through September? Sometimes we can stay pretty warm here. So we still might get a warm up here as we go through September. It doesn't mean that warm days are over just yet, but I'm sure if you're out and about in the evening and the night hours, you can feel that chill in the atmosphere, letting you know that fall is on its way. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow. We'll check everything out again, and I will talk to you guys then.